and numerical methods. This is very interesting topic and very useful, very useful for various sciences of various branches of science, engineering, and technology. And so much so, this topic is so application oriented that we can apply even all our real life problems. For not very trained, this can be used by not very much expert in mathematics or computing. Simply, we can get the concept of estimation by using the interpolation techniques. So, what is the interpolation? Let us start with what are the applications of the interpolations. We begin with the application so that you can have the interest. Generally, the teachers, when you are presenting any topic, it must begin with the application and the scope of the topic. This discussion opens the interest among the students, among the learners and the readers, and therefore, similarly, by adopting the same fashion of teaching, I am going to explain first the application of the interpolation. When we talk about application of the interpolation, we have number of areas in science or particularly in mathematics when we have the very complicated and complex function. So if function is very complex, then unless we have the simplicity or the simpler form of the function, we cannot study and analyze the function, and consequently we cannot seek the application of that very function. So this interpolation is one application, a very you can say the vigorous and strong application, that the complicated function is made to a simpler function, and with a result we are able to study that very function which was not possible to study as a real complex function, real complicated function. Second application is that in various situations of application in the fields of engineering and applied sciences, we are given a range of data. For example, suppose I give you uh, some range of data. For example, I say that when 10 persons work somewhere for any task, then 500 rupees as a base, or as a, you can say, the labor, this cost is involved. 10 persons do the work, then 500 rupees. I say 25 persons work, then 1500. And I say if 100 people work, then 3000 rupees. So I give you three set of data: 10 people, the 500 rupees, the 25 persons, then I said this is the 1500, and then I say the 50 people, then I said the 3000 rupees. But if somebody is interested, so basic variable is what? Basic variable is the person's first work or laborer's first work, then cost is involved. So cost is the after effect of the persons when they work. So basic variable is the persons who are working. That is in very popular manner in mathematics, that is called the independent variable. So independent variable is given three values: 10, and then 25, and then 50. And corresponding the works done by these people, we have three set of data. I can use this, then you can understand better. I say this 10 persons, 10 persons. I say then 500 RS 500 is involved when talk about the 25%. 25%. Then RS then RS 1500 is involved. When I say the 50%, when I say 50%, again then the RS 3025 or 3000 is. So these are the rupees. This is the cost. These are persons they work, and this is the. So here is the you can say here is the one is the workers. Here is the workers and workers, and here is the cost. Here is the worker, and here is worker, and here is cost. This is a cost. Simple example. So cost 10% I say corresponding to 10% when they work against any work to get it accomplished or get it completed. Then rupees 500 is involved. When 25% do certain work, then rupees 1,500 is incurred. And if 50% perform the work, then rupees 3,000 is involved as a cost. If some person is, if any person is interested, because suppose there is a person who is looking after this very work, then if he is interested, that he wants to know how many the 15%, 15% how much cost, 15%, then he wants to know the cost. Somebody you can say if there are 27%, there are 27% wants to know the cost. Similarly, you can say if 30% wants to know the cost. So we are not given in this set of data. So data set is what? A data set is, this is the basic variable as I told you. This work first happens. This work first happens. So order in the order, the first is this variable, and the second is after effect of this work, without cost, work won't be done. Means here is a condition, whatever work you do, how much work you do, according to that, the cost will be paid, the value will be paid. So second comes the value. So work and value. And here the first one is known as basic variable. First one is known as a basic variable. Basic variable. Basic variable. And the second one is known as response variable. Second one, sorry. What I'm talking, basic variable. And the second one is called the response variable. And one is called the response variable. The response variable. Response variable. So a response variable and the basic variable. So this happens first, then this response variable happens second, later. So this basic variable is popularly known as in mathematics independent variable. And in the parlance, in the terms of the numerical analysis, this is also known as arguments. I told you, arguments. So either you say the independent variable or you say the argument. And second variable, which is a response variable, in mathematics it is known as dependent variable. independent variable in mathematics. But here in the numerical methods, this is known as entry. You must be knowing this entries. So arguments and entries are the popular terms and the frequently used terms in the numerical methods. And the independent variable, dependent variable, these are the terms which are very, very, very widely and universally used in the field of mathematics. So I told you the question, what would be when 15% are working, how we can compute the cost, how we can estimate the cost. Here, data is only given in the order of first and second variable. Means data is given what? The 10 and the another set is 500. Another set is 500. And this is one set of data. And one set of data. And then another set is given the 25 and this is the 1500 and the third one is given the 50 and the 3000 and mathematically saying this is the result, this is the dependent variable. So this is dependent variable means what? We can write this the x1 and y1, x1 and y1. This is one set. Another set is x2, x2 and y2, and another set is x3, x3 and y3, x3 and y3. So, and if we simplify, so these variables, so one is dependent, another is independent, one is entry, another is argument. So argument entry, independent, dependent, and we can beautifully curve, we can fit the curve y is equal to fx, a very popular function, concept of the function, y is equal to fx. So with the help of this y is equal to fx, and if you say this is I, and if you say this is I, yi fx, and I is ranging value what? Very simple. I have come to mathematics. I is ranging value 1, 2, and 3. You know. So it has opened a clear picture of the arguments and entries, and with the help of these arguments and entries, we have fitted a curve yi and fxi, this curve, and we can plot it, and with the help of this we can fit the curve. What is the nature of the curve? We can fit it. So this is a curve, and what is the nature of the curve? Nature of the curve. We can fit by applying certain this certain technique. Now I come to the first. Complicated person is made to the simple function, whereas it was very difficult to study and analyze the complicated function. So one application in the field of mathematics is that, because you can say the other persons may not be interested in the complicated functions. Other field means engineering, technology, and the applied sciences, because they are not supposed to be expert in the mathematics, and therefore it is our responsibility to analyze the function from the complexity to the simplicity. Purpose is that simple function can easily be studied, analyzed, and its application can be easily suggested in various fields of application. Now, that was the first application. Second, I say that if some person is interested, or this person who is responsible for this work, who is getting this work done, he says that if 15 persons work, then what is the amount of cost? So 15 lies between where? 10 and 25. So with the help of this interpolation, we can estimate the value of cost by applying the technique of the interpolation. So interpolation is one way that this is a technique of estimating the value of dependent value, dependent variable, or the value. Dependent variable is what? Y is here, fx. The value of, this is a technique of estimation of value of the function within given value, within given range of value of the argument or independent variable. So range is what? This one range is 10 and another range is 50. So we can, interpolation is what? Interpolation can estimate the cost and cast the value of the function for given value of the independent variable within range or inside the range. Inside range is what? One range is 10, lower range is 10, and upper range is 50. And 15 is lying between range or inside range. When we talk about the 27, we can estimate the 27, the cost. We can estimate the cost corresponding to 27 but by applying the technique of the interpolation. Similarly, we can get the value of the cost by applying the technique of the interpolation to corresponding to 40. 40 is also within range and inside range. So first definition, the application as well as definition. Application is what? Application is if within or inside the range of the independent variable, the value of the function is not given, then we can easily estimate the value of the function by applying the technique of the interpolation. This is very, very important applications which can be used or which are being used by the various branches of science. So first application is, when we talk about the application, first application is, first is complicated function. Complicated function is complicated. Second is the value of function corresponding to the value of argument which lies inside the range. And this main purpose of the interpolation, and interpolation has been very much popular among the not only among the mathematicians but also among the users coming and hailing from various disciplines. Okay, so I come to the definition. We have seen the application. The first point, I have seen the application. So far we were talking about the application. Okay, so it has to say wide application. Common person can get it with the help of the computer. Wide application. So let us know the definition of the interpolation. So interpolation is what? In in one word, this is what? Interpolation is nothing else, but this is a technique or method. Technique, technique or method. Technique or method. What does it do? This method, what does it do? This method, what it makes? It estimates the value of the function. Value of the function. Which value of the function? For value of the function is not given. As I just gave you example, when we talk about the 15, 12 or 15 or 12, I think, and 27, the 40, if you remember, the function of the value is not given there. So it estimates the value of the function within the range of the independent random variable, within the range of the arguments. That term is also known a within for any intermediate value. Inside range, either you say, you will find the definition somewhere. Inside range is also known as intermediate value. Inside range for corresponding to intermediate values of arguments. And somewhere you will find the definition. It estimates the value of the function. It estimates the entries. So either you say the function or entries, intermediate values of the independent, you look at here, independent variable. So this is a technique. Ultimately, this is how we define it. This is a technique. Let us define it. This is a technique which is used to estimate the value of a function or entry for any value of independent variable or argument inside its given range. In another way, this is a technique which is used to estimate the value of a function for any intermediate value of independent variable or argument. So we can define this is a technique. This is a technique used to estimate. Estimate means to make it more clear. We can define the extrapolation. Extrapolation is what? Extrapolation. Interpolation and extrapolation, as I told you, this is the range. This is, I just notate. This is a data as I explained right now. This how many data if it is started from 0, then n plus 1 data. I told you there is a range. Range was recently, if you remember, the range was the 500, 10, and another range was, remember or not? Range, when we talk about the range, that is the range of independent variable. Okay, this was the given range, and inside this range is not. I'm not talking about this range as a domain and a range. This is simply the extreme values 10 and 50, and this is a range where A is 10 and B is 50. Means you can write here AB or a value. This is a value AB. This is a range. I'm talking about this. So when we estimate, this is a technique. This is a method. If somebody is asking that what is the polynomial, this is a technique or this is a method. What is the work of this method? What is the aim of this method? To estimate the value, to approximate, to estimate the value of the function corresponding to given intermediate value of intermediate corresponding to the outside values of the independent variable is known as extrapolation. So interpolation within or inside the range, and interpolation, extrapolation outside the range. So this is the interpolation and extrapolation. I just go ahead. Interpolation, I have shown this very data for you. You have seen. If the function is, there are two, then the figure, there are several definitions. These are the several definitions. The hierarchy defines the interpolation. Estimate is the value, and the estimation is the process. And another fellow defines interpolation as art of reading between the lines. Right. I told you there are various branches. Branches are multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary branches of science and social sciences. People of the science and social science, engineering and technology, they are very frequently using the concept of the interpolation. So they say reading between the lines of a table. Reading between the lines, this is a phrase. Reading between the lines. This is a phrase. Between the lines. Between the lines. This is a phrase. What does it mean? Who will tell? Between the lines. Please unmute. Unmute all. Rajkumar ji.
Yes, sir.
Unmute all. What is meaning of between the lines? Between lines.
To find the hidden
Between the lines means here each and every possible meaning. Hidden means I am explaining that very hidden. Each and every possible meanings of the words when we are reading any literature. Is it okay? But here he has applied this very term in the interpolation context. Then in the context of interpolation, between the lines means each and every possible values of function. Each and every possible values of the function corresponding to the values of the independent variable within or inside the range, given range. So this is one way of defining the, and Harper's definition is interpolation consists in reading a value which lies between the extreme points. So I think you have understood the things nicely. Now we come to the next point. Next point is, before I start this thing, before making this function, this line says, if the function fx is known explicitly, then the value of y means value of the function, corresponding to any value of x. Now they are not taking the name of function or some. In the beginning, they have taken the name of the function. In the beginning, they have taken the name of function. Easily be obtained. So the function fx is not known. On the other hand, if function fx is not known, then it is very hard to find the exact form of fx with the tabulated values xi, yi. In such cases, the function fx can be replaced by a simpler function, say phi x. I was just telling you in the very beginning, I gave you the example of application. Then the same example, the same case, it is being discussed here. That is a complicated case. Here in the, when we start discussing the concept of the function, then we discuss two kinds of prominently, we discuss two kinds of function. One kind of function is known as, here is given explicit. One kind of function is implicit function. Another is explicit function. There is no problem. So what is the explicit function? Explicit function, I write here, the y is equal to x square plus 2x plus 25. Y is equal to x square plus 2x plus 25. Is it the example of explicit function? Explicit function. This is the explicit function. If I write here y is equal to x square y is equal to x square, I change divided by y is equal to x square plus 2x upon y plus 25, or you change it if you want to write plus a, then this kind of function is known as implicit function. Implicit function. Implicit function. So what is the basic difference between the implicit function and explicit function? The function which can clearly written separately in terms of y and x. Y is completely separated from the independent variable. Or you can say the dependent variable can be clearly, absolutely separated from the, isolated from the independent variable. Then it is known as explicit function. Otherwise, if y is also involved in the right hand side, y is already in the left hand side, then this is it is very difficult to separate the y which cannot be expressed separately in terms of the x, then this function is known as implicit function, and therefore this line is very important for us. Which line? This line is very important. You look at here. If fx is known explicitly, then the value of y corresponding to any value of x can easily be obtained. I am talking about the explicit function, this function. Okay. On the other hand, if the function is not known, then it is very hard to find the exact form of fx with the tabulated values of x and y. How you can get it? This is not separated. So not separated, then how the values of x and y would help to find the value of the function, would help to find the nature of the function. In such cases, the function fx can be replaced by a simpler function. When I was talking about the complicated function, the complicated function is a implicit function. Implicit function is a complicated function here, and in this very case, the implicit function which is complicated, it is made simpler by applying the interpolation technique. Okay, then a function which is a simpler function, its name is given as smoothing function. Its name is given smoothing function, and then we can have now next concept is this is a polynomial. Okay, again we have come to new concept. New concept means the concept of the polynomial. This point is here we are discussing this. If phi x is a polynomial, then phi x is called interpolating polynomial. Process of computing for this is called the polynomial interpolation. So polynomial interpolation has got its different nomenclature. Nomenclature in the sense that when we are handling with the polynomial, in place of function we have polynomial, then the interpolation will be known as polynomial interpolation, and the polynomial on which the interpolation is applying, that is known as a interpolating polynomial. So name of the polynomial is, this is the name, remember this point. This is the name of the polynomial, that is known as interpolating polynomial, and this is the technique is known as a polynomial interpolation. So I am not going to discuss here the difference between, there is very important, which this is given as a home assignment, and tomorrow we will discuss on this very point. What is the difference? You note down please and make your concept clear. What is the difference between polynomial function? Interesting. Difference between polynomial and function, or distinguish. This is study and make distinguish points, just to find out the points which can distinguish between polynomial and function. So we can also go for the interpolation for polynomial. We can also go for the interpolation for the function. So this is the beginning of the polynomial, interpolation. So let us summarize once more before winding up today's lecture, is we started with the application of the interpolation to make the lecture interesting and useful. We started giving the definition. We gave the definition of the interpolation. We gave the definition of the extrapolation. We gave the concept with arguments and entries, the dependent variable, independent variable, basic variables, and the response variables. We also discussed the data fitting, the definition and example, without counter example, teaching of the mathematics or the learning of the mathematics is not complete, and therefore always use the example when you are explaining your concept. So I did the same by giving the example also. Later, we discussed the case of the implicit function and the explicit function. The implicit function is complicated function in which the variable y is not separated completely from the variable x, and therefore it becomes the case of complication or complexity. In this very case, the interpolation can help to make it simpler, and later, we discussed the case of polynomial when the function, in case of making it simpler, we can get pi x I j polynomial also. We apply the polynomial on this interpolation on this, then that interpolation becomes polynomial interpolation. And if we apply the interpolation on the polynomial, the name of the polynomial becomes the interpolating polynomials. So I gave you the assignment for tomorrow's discussion, the distinguish between the function and polynomial, and we will continue the lecture tomorrow also. If today you have any queries, doubts, curiosity, you can have your queries. Please